Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. I am so honored and grateful that you are tuning in, but I have to ask for your help. I'm going to pull an NPR. If you'd like to help the show, you can donate to the show at emmettmuckles.com/donate, or just visit emmettmuckles.com. Follow the link in the menu to the donate page where you can make a donation of your choice. Thank you.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with Emmett Muckles. Today is the day that God gave you another chance. The universe gave you another chance. There are some people, especially in this time of 2020, 2021, or the new paradigm, that we have to be appreciative because some people didn't get that chance. Let me explain this to you because you are a billionaire. What happened was mommy and daddy had a little fun. He shared some information with her. And what happens when you give the feminine something, they make things of that. So 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16. At the 30-day mark, you were over 1 billion cells and you hadn't touched the planet. Think about that. That was the beginning of your journey. Now, if you think about it, or if you understand or overstand, in your gut flora is a universe of trillions of entities that constitute you. And this is why it is so important for you to love yourself, because your self is constituted of cells. When your cells get hungry, you eat. Understand the total you. And understanding the total you means understanding those that are outside of you. I've done this. There's this awesome woman that I have been in her gravity and she has been in my gravity, except her pull was a lot greater than mine. And I had to let the magnet come to her and bring her forward. Her name is Mia Sorada. How are you, my friend?
Hi, good morning. I'm all right. I am really excited and stoked to be here.
So, Mia, I am going to ask you the basic question that I ask everyone that I interview and most people that I find in my life. What brought you to now?
What brought me to now?
What brought you to the person that you are now?
Oh, my goodness gracious. There's a lot of levels. There's a lot of levels we could unpack there. So I will approach this with a very kind of secular point of view, and then let's take a step back and look at the, standing on the other side of the universe point of view.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Yeah. Originally, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I spent time both in New York. I've been in San Francisco for 10 years, and I've had quite a journey. I've been in the arts. I've been, in the business world. I'm in renewables now. So that's just kind of a, practical point of view. Now the standing back from the other side of the universe point of view.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. That's much more exciting. Whew. So I'm excited because I don't often get a chance to talk about this part of myself.
And that's probably part of the gravity.
This is the gravity. Here we go. So we're just going to jump right in. I was born into and grew up in, happy Saturday morning, in a religion called Christian Science. And that's a whole thing that we could unpack for days and weeks and months. But I will just say that that was kind of a moment when the chick was inside the egg. And if you want to talk about when the chick started to peck its way out of the egg, it was when I realized that, spiritually speaking, the most important thing for me was not love, was not spirit, was not truth, was not soul, was not life. The most important thing for me was gratitude. And more importantly than that, the most important thing for me was, these words are important, nothing but gratitude. And
I knew it. So the gravity is unpacking. Now I'm starting to see the bricks on the road.
All right. So that was a moment where this is a very graphic metaphor, but when when the monkey turns itself inside out, that was kind of like what that moment felt like. And, and, just this moment that, oh my goodness, everything about myself, you were talking about cells and gut flora and your million cells, this is something totally different. And I don't know what that new thing really is, but whatever has come before in my life, that was a different time. And now I need to redefine myself with this value and this value only. And that was actually the time when I changed my name.
Really?
My name, I was not born Mia Paloma Sorada.
And I was wondering about the last name because I was like, I'm trying to, usually a name gives you an indication of lineage, DNA, social. It gives you a lot of stuff. But yours, I was just like, it's almost amorphous.
Yes. So that time, changing my name was really a moment when it was symbolic of becoming my own person. And becoming my own person as defined by, again, these words are important, nothing but gratitude. And at the time, I was in New York. At the time, I was living in Queens, in a Colombian neighborhood. I was conversationally speaking Spanish. I really love it. And I changed my name to a Spanish name. I did it legally, which is very hard, I might add. and we can, there's a couple different layers here. But now, in 2021, if I could change my name again, I would do it. But I wouldn't change it to a Spanish name because I'm not Spanish. I'm not Hispanic. And I feel like now I might have done something that is appropriating a culture that is not mine. And so, but it's my name. It's my name. So
can we
a whole lot of stuff there.
Can we decipher that for a moment?
Absolutely.
And the reason I want to, me as a man of color, here's why I want to decipher that. Because, with the recent Latinx movement and with the numbers that are represented in the United States in particular, you can't, if you're open, you will delve into things. And history is one thing that I mildly go after when I look at something. Mm-hmm. With that, when you say you're not, the only way that you could really not be, because Latin covers a whole spectrum, because there are people who are indigenous of this country who identify as Spanish, but Spanish was a derivative of Spain. Mm-hmm. And you know where I'm going here? So it's a European thing that found its way on this continent that people identify with, which is actually identify with who conquered my original people in some instances. Because I even look at names when someone is from Mexico or South America, and I say, oh, that's a Spanish name.
Mm-hmm.
That's an indigenous name. And there's a difference if you really pay attention to it. So when you say that, unless you've really gone deep into your DNA and you have none of this lineage in you, you might be have a valid ground.
Correct.
In the name that you have chosen. Because
Correct.
somewhere down the line, you know, when they were making one of those billionaires in the past, it might have been part of you.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do what's right for your heart and chakra. So,
yeah. I've thought more and more about this as in the last year, and I would get funny looks when I would, you know, tell my name to somebody, and they'll be like, "Are you Spanish? Are you from Spain?" And I'm like, "Nope." Just kind of leave it there. And you know, you were talking about having a lineage to it, and I think if I could have any lineage at all to it, it would be a pledge to be an ally. And maybe that's the only way that I could honor the name.
all right, I'm going to go a different direction here. I mean, we're stuck on a tangent, but I'm going to go in a different direction here. Let's say you change whatever your prior inception was. You said, I like Mia.
Yeah.
I like the first name. I want to be called by me. I want to be identified as that. But then what you do is you find a partner who is Latin. And you combine with them and you take that person's last name. What's the difference?
Oh, man.
Gotcha, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because we adopt and assume, and many people, and I want to give you some solace in it. I don't think it's cultural appropriation. I think it is spiritual acknowledgement. And what I mean by that is that's who you were at the time. And it's just that the time changed outside of you, but you still felt a connection to this culture, a serious connection to this culture. And the reason I say that is because many people, especially during the immigration phase, came to this country with their original name. But because of some of the ignorance that when they got here, people said, I'm not going to call you that. I'm going to call you this. So they lose what they were born with, what they identified for. But to be a part of this new thing that is America, they became someone new. So I don't think it should weigh that heavy on your heart.
Okay. You just made me feel a whole lot better. Thank you so much.
You know, and I'm going to say it this way, especially as you representing the feminine on this earth, you are connected to all things. You are literally connected to all things. And I say it from this fashion. We cannot exist without you. And people get it twisted, and and a lot of people don't realize these simple truths that are in our lives. Men typically do everything they do because of the feminine. So you have to think about it from this point. Your first teacher is typically, and I'm talking from my point of view and the masculine point of view, your first grand teacher is a woman. Your life skills teacher is a woman. Your mentor is a woman. Your emotional mentor is typically a woman. It's changing and it's falling out, but it's typically a woman. A woman is the most life creature on the earth because a woman can literally create a life from self, feed said life from self, and then mentor and nurture life from self. So you being connected on that plane, in many respects, in mine, maybe not others, gives you the right to morph into anything you want to be.
Mm.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you offering this different way of looking at it. It's really honestly made me feel a lot better.
Well, I teach this in these classes, and I had a class this week. I taught about like 30 something people, and I teach very technical stuff. But in that, much of the time I teach young masculine energy. And when I say young, I mean anywhere under 50. And many of the times I'm giving life lessons based on what I have learned and the gratitude that I have that I can do what I do. I tell every class I teach I love them. This is a technical thing. I tell them I love them. And I tell them I will be checking up on you, but I love someone more, and this is the reason I am going to check up on you. I love your families more, because it is imperative that the things that I teach can be inherently dangerous if they don't abide by the rules. So it is up to them to be all that they are and be what historically they're there to do as providers. They're not to switch those tables by, loosening the rules, because then they become a liability when they should be an asset. And they become a liability because of their poor decisions and ego. I can go down a rabbit hole deep, but I am very philosophical when I train people and I give life lessons, because there's a missing constituency on this planet right now. We have been separated and we're still trying to work it out, but there's a period where people are missing one part of the yin or the yang, and they don't understand their function on this planet. You just gotten in my brain, man. How are you going to do that?
I'm good at that.
There's something that I noticed about you. You draw nudes.
Cool. Yes, I do. Where'd you find them?
I'm a podcast host. I do deep dives.
Oh. I'm trying to think, where have I posted them?
I am a fan of the human body. So I'll tell you this. I had this experience when I went to Europe once. I went to a naturist beach. And I was really freaked out at first.
Yep.
And then, I was with some friends and family, and they're like, they just want to jump to it. I was like, oh, and nobody's really paying attention. And so, I joined in, and I was just sitting there kind of quiet. And it was in that moment that the universe opened up. I went, oh my God, I can't tell who's a doctor, who's a lawyer. I can't tell. All I can tell is one of two things. Have you worked out and eat right, or you don't?
It's like breaking the sound barrier.
But in that moment, I understood the human beauty, and I understood the judgment. In that moment, I realized that most of us are hiding from the public. I was like, and it wasn't sexual. That the body is not sexual. The body is just a body. Particularly in this country, we make it sexual. So when I saw that you draw nudes, I was like, she is looking at the basic essence of the human being. What got you into that?
Well, that was one of my 9 lives. And I will just say that one of those lives was in the world of figure art making. And during which I started drawing. The connection for me, there's many different levels of how I connect to drawing the human form. One, it does connect to an extremely formative part of my life, which was when actually right around the time when I was beginning to figure out who I was according to gratitude. And it was oddly an era of a rebirth. So it's crossed my mind before that it was strangely appropriate that this would happen in the arena of, figure art. It was just this natural rebirth. And you talked about like removing the judgment from the human body. One of the things I love the most about making figure art is it's not there's no aesthetic. There's no imposed aesthetic.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, diversity is celebrated in making figure art. People look down on you if you don't have models from a bunch of different backgrounds and a bunch of different times in their life. It makes artists better to draw a bigger, different people. The more different people are, the better the artist will become.
Right.
Because it's not about, well, how big is your waist? How tall are you? Do you have gray hair? Can you, that's not what it's about. It is a challenge to the artist to be able to make a wonderful picture with the model that is there. And there is something, the very first time I started drawing people, I got so emotional. I didn't know what was happening. And there is just something about, it's a gift when another human will offer that vulnerability to you. And it's not just, in this moment you get to, I'm in a vulnerable state and you're not in a vulnerable state. It is, I am giving you my form so that you can make I am trusting you to make a beautiful image with the form that I am giving you. I am not in control of the image that you are making. I am trusting you to do a good job. And when you're done, I trust you to give that to the world so that they can learn from it and appreciate it. And there is just like, there is very little, I can't think of another relationship that is like that.
Why do you say they're vulnerable? Because I don't see that as vulnerable in the aspect, because that seems to be a very puritanical firmware download for us. Because if you think about those people there are people who don't know our modern society. They're off in the bush somewhere, and that's their natural state. That's how they roll out. The whole village rolls out that way. There's no judgment. They're not vulnerable. But for us, because of that download that they've been popping into us in the Matrix, we consider it as vulnerability and other things as well. But I do understand what you're saying, though. I don't see it as vulnerable, but some people would. A lot of people do figure that their natural state is their most vulnerable state.
I would say that in the context of modern Western society, it is the vulnerable state. And it takes a lot of courage to be in it in the face of the cultural norms. And let's not dance around it. We're talking about a human not wearing clothes, modeling for another human who is wearing clothes, who is drawing them or painting them or making some kind of imagery based on their form.
Yeah. But, that all comes down to in some aspects, the emotional and spiritual maturity of the artist. And because you really have to connect with, I suck at drawing. I'm just going to say it. I can barely write my name legibly. But I do understand, because I am a fan of the human. I am a fan of it. And it's like relationship to the Fibonacci sequence and so many other things in its design.
Yeah.
So when I saw you, I was like, wow, that's pretty dope.
There's another reason why I am deeply connected to the act, or the practice of drawing the human form, which is, you just said it, it's the human. It's celebrating the human. And we live in the age of information. We live in the age of, we're carrying around AIs in our back pocket. Mm. And how many devices does everybody have in the home? There's no way to forget that we're human when you're drawing. And I do it to remind myself that none of this matters if we forget that we're human and that we're not alone. There's a whole bunch of us. We're here together. When I swing my arms, it might hit your face. I got to be careful about that. I got to be mindful about that. And it keeps perspective. I could sit on my computer and I could draw the most awesome, CAD drawing of a building and a bridge and a landscape, and I could go out there and 3D print everything. Does it matter if humans, what does it matter if it doesn't work for humans? What does it matter if humans hate it?
Yeah.
It brings the whole thing back to we're humans on this planet. And yes, technology is here to help us, but that is second fiddle to what is really important.
I want to delve, it's related, but we're talking about being human. Mm. And humans need so many things. We need so many things to be spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy. But one thing that every human needs, whether they believe it or not, they need a support system. Mm. So delving into support systems, and I know you've deciphered this or thought about it, what do you think people need as a support system or in their support system?
Well, I could start off with what I know I need.
And that's a good start, because most people start outside of themselves versus starting inside of themselves.
Yeah.
So go.
Yeah.
So is it, are you willing to tell me what it is that you need?
Sure. And we can get as real as you would like to.
That's the point of the conversation, is to be real.
Okay.
Because so often in this day and age, we are faux. We are surface. We are not being authentic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So everybody has mountains and valleys in their life. I had a big old valley about 20 years ago in my life with depression. And it was very humbling. And I learned firsthand what I need to take care of my emotions and my brain and my body. And like I said, it was a very humbling moment. And it is unbelievably important to have people around you that are in your corner and supporting you. And, if there is a time when you aren't able to do, very practical things for yourself, they are willing to and happy to help you that way. That's very important. For me, that's not my DEFCON 0.
That's not your DEFCON 0, you said.
I like to think that in my mind, I have a row of cheerleaders that day in, day out, from the moment I wake up to the moment that I go to sleep, they are all day long out there telling me to go get them. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if I'm making a sandwich. It doesn't matter if I'm getting off my butt to go for a walk or for a jog. It doesn't matter if I'm, facing a challenging day at work. These cheerleaders, they're in my corner and they are screaming and yelling at me that I am doing a great job and that I should go get them. I had a great conversation with a coach a couple weeks ago, and she has cheerleaders too. Only it's not just a couple of cheerleaders for her. She has a stadium full of fans. She imagines herself walking into a stadium of 80,000 people, and they all jump on their feet and scream in her support. For me, that's what I need. Because you talk about how much it takes to take care of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
It takes so much work. Oh, my goodness. And we need that level of just, pep and go get them. Sometimes we need that just to get out of bed in the morning. And that's okay. So when I think about what's my nose to the grindstone, DEFCON 0 support system, it's my cheerleaders. And if I know that I need something maybe what I need right now in this moment is to take a little time and reorient myself spiritually. Well, I need my cheerleaders to help me get there.
Yeah.
So if, I think that, just having that mental image for over a long time, it's helped me become a more enthusiastic person. It's helped me become a more supportive person. When I have a friend who, they're like, well, I think I'm going to go, start learning another language. My response is, that is freaking amazing, and go do it, and you're going to do an amazing job. That's what I need for a support system.
And, I think many people need that for a support system, but the Matrix reprograms you to have you look somewhere else. It's like sleight of hand. Mm. If you look at social media, people are looking for their support system. They don't realize that their support system is within, and they keep going outside. Mm. So I had this moment a couple of months ago, right before I fell asleep. I was in that tween state. Mm. And I went, and I get really nerdy in those states, like really sciencey in my head and spiritual at the same time. And I was going through this thing, and I was thinking about the atom. Mm. And I kept going down and down and down. And I use it in my podcast because as above, so below. Mm. And everything is perfect down in that level. But then I started thinking about maybe we're an atom or piece of an atom for some other piece of material, but we see it as space, or we see it as this. So it's like we're just this fractal thing. But because we have this thing called consciousness, we start freaking out and thinking that we have to interact, that all of our value comes from outside. The atom is inside, which is one of the most powerful things. So if you think about that, you have atoms in you. So you are the most powerful thing. You have the support that you need because if you think it, it can come to fruition. If you think you are the bomb, you are the bomb. If you think I'm not worth it, then so be it. And this is what I tell people, and you'll hear it at the end of the podcast. There's a method for doing this. Because me as a man of color in the United States, I have to navigate a lot of landmines. Sometimes I come home, there's a knife in my back, I pull it out. Oh, that was a scimitar. Oh, that was just a butterfly knife. And then I go, I am a spiritual being having a physical experience. What I went through today was probably a lesson that I will need or needed to know so that I could navigate even better in the future and have my catalog complete when I'm done. I understand what you're saying, because 2 years ago, right before I came to the position I am now, I went through a severe depression. Some of it was attributed to seasonal affective disorder, in contention with my life was changing, and it was just dark all the time. I used to depression. Now I understand. That is a dark place. It can take you out. It can make you take you out. So I understand that people need to do what they must to come to the light and bathe in light, kind of like you are right now. Because all I see is the light around you. Hey, with that, I mean, you're such a, and this is why I wanted to talk to you, because I was like, she is my kind of person. She is my people. There's just, when we see shiny things and we go after them, be like, oh, that's shiny. Yeah. And you don't care what anybody else is doing. You're like, that's shiny to me. I'm over there.
Oh my goodness.
I am like that.
I see shiny things all day long.
I do too. That's what got me into woodworking 6 months ago. I was like, oh, that looks so shiny. And it's not shiny till it's shiny. It can be around you all the time, and then you see something and all of a sudden it sparkles. But here's one of the things that really put me over the edge to really contact you, and is I saw you have a coaching. So tell me about that. How did that come about? Was that one of your shiny things that went boop, started glowing?
That was a shiny thing that I didn't think I could pick up for not for a long time, for a while. I didn't know what coaches were until about 3 or 4 years ago, when someone in the workplace talked about their coach. And I said, what? What's that? And looking into it, I was like, well, that is a very shiny thing, in that I can see how this could be an incredibly practical way. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not saying a religious way, but it is a practical way for me to bring parts of my spiritual self into a professional workplace. And I want to leave religion out of that equation, because I think that there's a line between religion and the workplace, and it's delicate, but that doesn't mean that spirituality can't be present in the workplace. And I saw coaching as a way for there to be a living spirituality in the workplace. Yep. So I was like, maybe someday I'll be a coach. Well, I thought more and more about it. I talked to more and more coaches. I realized that it's the Wild West, and there are people out there doing doing wonderful, wonderful jobs as coaches, and there are people out there who have no business being coaches, and it's just bad news bears. And I was like, I want to do this right. So I did my research. I found a course that that respected what it should really be, and I took it, and I'm currently working towards what's called the ACC credential, recognized by the ICF Federation, International Coaches Federation. So the thing that blew my mind when I learned more about it, and as I became one, was coaching is 100% about two things. It's about listening, and it's about helping the other person get to where they need to go.
Right. So you got your coaching. You're actively pursuing your coaching life. Mm-hmm. And in pursuing your coaching life, what is your ultimate goal? Who is your perfect customer?
The kind of person for whom coaching works the best. Someone said this to me a couple of days ago, and I was like, that's exactly it. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not profound. The kind of person for whom coaching is the best is the kind of person who is ready to move forward. Mm. And the kind of person who is ready to commit to putting some elbow grease into moving forward. Hmm. And it doesn't even matter, what area it's in. Doesn't matter whether it's, professional or life or, and whatever part of life it's in, they are facing forward.
Yeah.
So, and therein lies the distinction between something like a coach and a therapist and, or a mentor or a consultant. A coach is there to listen to the person and ask them the questions that best help them move forward.
In the past, a lot of that was family. A lot of that was friends. And I've seen the proliferation of coaching because me as a podcast host, I get inundated with requests for coaching. So much so that I've almost gotten turned off by it because I'm like, there can't be that many people who are effective at, because I know people.
Yeah.
I understand. And I also understand there's two things that have kind of caught the mainstream in the last couple of years, especially for what I do, is people want to be a speaker. They want to be Tony Robbins or Les Brown. They want to be a coach, I want to be a life coach. Mm-hmm. Well, what problems have you gone through? What have you solved in your own life that can help someone else? Well, I got laid off. So have I. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I do understand what you were talking about. Like, it's literally the Wild West. So, like, people are just like taking up mantles of things. And I'm not disparaging anybody. I am not. I'm not discounting anyone. I'm just saying, and I know this from when I was a DJ. I think this is a good analogy. When I was a DJ, DJs were becoming popular. You saw them on commercials, you saw them on things like that. And people was like, oh yeah, I know how to DJ. So I would do these functions like a wedding or something. People would give me these playlists and I would say, what do you want me to do with this? Oh, this is going to rock. No, this is not. And then back in my mind, but they're paying me. Customers are always right. So I would have to prove to them. And I would be playing music. And this also let me know the selfishness of the human being. I would have a packed room, and people are on the dance floor. And these people would come up to me and say, can you just play our list? Fine, I'll play your list. And the dance floor would have like 3 or 4 people on it. Usually them and like 2 of their friends or 3 of their friends. While everybody else is like coming up to me going like, why are you playing this music? Hence, they thought they were a DJ. It's more of a connection with people. It's reading a room. It's understanding demographics. It's understanding age, time. There's a lot of things. I equate a lot of things with DJing because I learned psychology, and humanness when I was a DJ. And a lot of people don't understand it. It takes more than just reading the book, passing the test. It's life that you have to have within you or a past life that you're pulling from.
Mm. Mm.
So what drew you to it? Was it something inside you that says, I've been through many doors, and I think my experience from those doors can help me help others? Or was it something else?
Yeah. The thing that drew me to it was in the West, in the States, our professional life is it's if we let it is the foundation of our identity. And there, so I saw it as a way for people to break that professional ice and find their real selves within a professional context, and ideally beyond. And I just saw it, again, as a way to connect we keep, you hear the line that, like, oh, we don't mix work and play. We don't mix personal life and work life. And, and in recent years, I've begun to hear a little bit about, bringing your whole self to work and living a complete life. I think we're finally starting to turn the corner on that conversation. I think coaching is part of that. So another thing that drew me to it was like I said, there are good coaches, there are bad coaches. A good coach can pretty much put you into an accelerator to get you going forward to your goal. And golly, I just had one other thing that'll come through my mind, but yeah. And I think this might be the biggest thing for me. Again, good coaches and bad coaches. Coaching as it should be done flips the conversation from the words that people say to each other to the listening that people give one another.
Oh, that's a good one.
It flips the whole thing around. The conversation isn't what we're saying. The conversation is how we are listening to one another. And coaching, that is the bread and butter of coaching done right. It's how are we listening to each other? How are we paying attention to each other? And I mean, we all have friends who are great listeners. We all have, friends who ask us thoughtful questions. Like, this stuff doesn't have to be bound to, oh, I have my coach. Like, this is about like a change in the way that we listen to one another. And the whole thing just kind of flips around.
Well, that's awesome. We could have conversations probably for days, literally days.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing I want to touch upon is the subject of gratitude and how you alluded to how you came to it, but what effects have you seen with you adopting the appreciation and the attention to gratitude in your life since doing so? Has there been any profound moments, or are they all just subtle and every moment they manifest, or what happens?
I'm going to take a step back to the most important lesson. Well, yeah, to the most important lesson that I learned, which might go back to the way that some super old wiring that we have in humans in terms of our language center. Because when I was doing a ton of spiritual searching, and that's something that doesn't end. But when I turned the corner and I realized that my journey was going to be spiritual, I was focusing on love, I was focusing on life, I was focusing on spirit. And the words that I continued to return to again and again and again were, thank you. And I didn't know why. As the years, as I kept on doing this from months to days, from months into years, I kept on returning to thank you. And humans are, I think a lot about how we're wired for danger. The survival mechanism. We're wired to look for the problems.
Yeah.
We're wired to look for the bad. We're wired because we have to get out of the way. We'll die. Yeah. If we don't see it, if we don't see that tiger over there, well, the next thing we'll see is the
jaws.
Of the tiger. Yeah. With that in mind, and we use language the same way. It is not uncommon for us to use language as a weapon. Well, how do we improve ourselves? How do we motivate ourselves? How many people do you know that use violent language against themselves in order to improve themselves? And why is that? Because if we use nice language, if we use kind language, historically, it doesn't have the edge over someone who might use violent language to improve themselves. So, we're wired for the negative. Our nervous systems and our language systems, we're wired for the negative. Earlier in the show, I mentioned nothing but gratitude. With those words, I created a vacuum. I took everything out of the picture except for what I wanted. Because that's how our minds work. We need to use language to take away what is not important and to focus on what is important. So, when you say, how did your life change when you began to have these moments of gratitude? Let's reframe that. My life became about nothing but gratitude. That was the defining thing. Anything that showed up in that field of vision became my experience. So, for me, I learned that, from a bunch of spiritual journeying, I kept on coming back to the words, thank you. And I was like, why is that? Why is this so important? And I had a ceiling of the universe falling from the sky moment when I was like, it's not about love. It's not about life. It's about what am I thankful for? Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. So I began to use structures of language internally and externally that put my focus on that one important thing, which is gratitude. I'm not sure that answered your question, but I thought it was important to mention that.
Well, the answer is the answer. So it's not. It's not about. Sometimes it's not about me. I'm trying to share you with everybody else.
Oh.
And with that,
yeah. Go ahead.
We got to get out of here. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is how we conclude. Remember, I said this earlier, but I say it at the end of every podcast. We are fractal. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. We are human beings. We are people under the sun, and we all have a color. It's just affected us because of where we were born or where our grandparents were born. We all have a color. There are no whites. There are some people who are actually black. There's some people who are actually blue. And then there's shades between all that. It's all irrelevant because we are human beings. We're people of the sun. We're made in the image of man. And here's where the issues come in, as we've been talking about. It's the being part. This all starts with an appreciation of yourself. You have to love yourself. So as I've said before, when you get out the shower, drop your towel, walk over to the mirror, and get close. Look at the moles, look at the wrinkles, look at the flabby things. That's you. We have yet to be able to perfect a human like a woman can produce a human being. And what I really want you to do is get close to the mirror, and I want you to look directly from your eye into your eye at the reflection in the mirror. You will see that your iris is like several nebulae in the sky, as above, so below. And when you meet another human being on the street or in your life that has a nebulae in their eye, like the one in your eye, like the one in the sky, treat them with love, honor, and respect. Till next time, love you all. Peace.